What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today we'll be looking at the recent Covenant ability and Covenant ability conduit changes that came out with the most recent beta build. So let's see what's going on with Flagellation, Sepsis, Echoing Reprimand, and all the Covenant-specific conduits. So for those keeping up with the latest builds and my last video, we've already covered all the spec-specific potency conduit changes. So next we'll be looking at the revised Covenant conduits, of which 3 have received a pretty impressive amount of tuning to bump up their power levels a bit. I'll also be covering the revisions made to a few of the rogue-specific Covenant abilities as well, as those have received some tweaks since I last spoke of them. We'll start with Flagellation, as this one has been going through a lot of changes recently and actually went through even more over the weekend, so I had to re-record this part for the video because, yeah, sigh. Anyways, the bright side is I don't have to tell you that this ability isn't working correctly like I was originally going to, because it now is. Flagellation is now a 1.5-minute cooldown, and has been changed to give a haste bonus. Prior to this recent build and changes, this move gave a mastery bonus after flagellating the crap out of somebody. Mastery scales vary differently with each spec though, so they decided to change it to haste to make it easier to tune between the 3. To use Flagellation, you will still cast the primary move that lashes your enemy 3 times. Each lash deals shadow damage and gives a stack of the eponymously named debuff Flagellation. And for every combo point you spend near the target will lash it and add stacks of Flagellation. You can gain up to 30 stacks, and when you re-trigger the Flagellation ability, each stack will give you 0.5% of haste, resulting in a total of 15% haste if you can reach 30 stacks. The big downside to this new version of the ability though is you have to re-trigger the ability before the debuff falls off after 20 seconds, or before the target dies, otherwise you don't gain the haste right now. Unsure if that's intentional or not, but if so, that's kinda lame. The new potency conduit for Flagellation does sound like it might be quite potent, though the new longer cooldown of 1.5 minutes compared to 45 seconds will affect the usefulness of this one. Lashing Scars will cause the initial cast of Flagellation to deal 2 extra hits, and does a 50% increased damage to Flagellation. From my initial testing, it does seem to work correctly, and the 50% bonus affects all Flagellation hits, not just the initial ones from the casting move, which was my primary concern. Up next, we have another revised Covenant ability, Sepsis. This is the Night Fae Rogue ability, which is a damage over time effect on a 1.5 minute cooldown. This move puts a 10-second poison debuff on your target, and ticks every second. After the 10 seconds expire, it deals a modest amount of damage, and allows you to use one move that would normally require stealth if used within the next 5 seconds. It costs 25 energy and generates 1 combo point. And some of you who have been keeping up with my videos or just beta stuff in general will know this is very, very different than it was previously, which instead would give us an instant cast of Vanish instead of just using one stealth-based move. It also used to be free and generated no combo points, but the loss of the Vanish effect is pretty big. This is because in organized PvE and PvP content, such as raiding, arenas, or Mythic Plus, this meant extra usage of stealth-oriented legendary effects and talents that are available to us in Shadowlands. However, I think the problem is that they couldn't really find a way to balance this ability around the extra Vanish effect, so it had to go, unfortunately. Transversely, this move's special conduit, Septic Shock, has received quite a large damage increase at the early stages of its rank scaling. The Septic Shock conduit now causes the ticks of Sepsis to start dealing 80% more damage, going down by 10% per tick. At rank 15, this ends up at 192%, which is pretty much identical to the 190% that rank 15 had prior to this change. Just the low end has been brought up from 50 all the way to 80. To be entirely fair, outside of organized PvP and PvE, the free Vanish was known to be a headache in things like world content or soloing, as you're too likely for the target to survive for the 10-second debuff window, resulting in vanishing mid-combat, and 9 times out of 10 the rare or whatever you were fighting would then reset. One move from stealth is pretty laughable though, so hopefully they can come up with something a little bit more substantial than that. And as a quick mention, Echoing Reprimand did receive a tiny change. The damage of the move has gone from 130% of attack power down to 110%, so nothing too crazy there. However, as a sort of good thing, it now only gives you 2 combo points instead of 3 when you cast it. Now, why is less combo points a good thing, you might be asking your monitor or your phone right now. Well, due to the little anima-charged combo point minigame thing, you were likely to move right over the combo point that you needed to land on without even trying to. Anima charged combo points can only be either the number 2, 3, or 4 combo point, meaning since it gave 3 combo points, you were already at a 33% chance of missing that combo point you were supposed to get to right off the bat. As soon as you add in passive combo point generating effects like Shadow Techniques, Seal Fate, or Ruthlessness, your likelihood of missing the charge point became pretty high pretty quickly, which could make you lose out on a good burst opportunity by fishing for that right amount of combo points after a few GCDs were spent. By making it only give 2, we are now more likely to be able to use this special 7 combo point finisher a lot sooner, so that's definitely a plus to the change. The Reverberation Conduit for Echoing Reprimand did not see any changes in this build, as it was already a pretty high scaling value starting at 50% baseline and moving up to 120% at rank 15. Lastly, Serrated Bone Spike. You know, that one everyone was super hyped for like half of the beta, and then it got chunked really hard and now no one talks about it? Yeah, that one. This is the Necrolord Covenant ability, and the move itself has not gone through any real changes since I last brought it up. It still has 3 charges, and you still throw bone spikes at targets which deal damage and puts permanent bleeds on them unless they die or heal to full. If either of those conditions are met, then you'll gain back a charge of Serrated Bone Spike. It's an extremely cheap combo point generator, costing only 15 energy, and you'll gain an extra combo point for every active Bone Spike bleed that is out on targets. So the big annoyance with Serrated Bone Spike, at least in my opinion, other than being tuned down as much as it was, is the fact it cannot critically hit. Well, the newly beefed up Sudden Fractures Conduit helps to alleviate that in a backwards kinda sorta way. This conduit gives the Bone Spike bleed a chance for the bleed to tick a second time, meaning it will essentially result in the same damage as a critical hit, but without critical hit chance being a stat requirement. This used to be exceptionally weak, ranging from a 3% chance up to a whopping 10% at rank 15. It has definitely been drinking some milk or something because these bones got quite a bit stronger in this build. The Sudden Fractures Conduit now increases the double hit chance to 30% baseline, going up to an impressive 70% at rank 15. While I don't know if this would be enough to push Bone Spike back up into the limelight and ranks can change things quickly, it does seem just a hair higher than Sleight of Hand, at least at rank 1 on my test character. Again, this is really preliminary stuff, so it may or may not hold true for all combinations or character choices. So, I guess to wrap this up, why do I think most of these things happened? Well, I think Blizzard is really trying to push the viability of the Covenant-specific conduits up a bit, so as to make either a solid option for it, or possibly even a better option than some of our spec-specific ones. If that were the case, with us only having 2 potency conduit slots on any soulbind tree at any given time, it would mean we'd really only need to worry about swapping 1 potency conduit out on any soulbind tree to change specs. With the new, somewhat cumbersome conduit energy system, you earned 1 energy per day, as well as an additional 1 for every new conduit that you earn, for a total stockpile of up to 10. You then use 1 conduit energy for each time you swap out a conduit. This would then mean we would be able to change specs relatively easily if the specific conduits to the Covenants are actually good options or at least strong alternatives. I don't know if that will hold true in the future, but if so, it could free up a lot of the potential disagreement I think a lot of people have with the conduit system requiring a lockout. We'll have to see how things play out in the future, but if these Covenant-specific conduits become a jack-of-all-trades fill-in for people who swap specs a lot, then this might be a good option for some at least. However, if there is ever a best option, there are a lot of people that are going to find it and take it. The conduit system is honestly a bit daunting to look at sometimes, but I hope these videos have helped give you some insight on the development and design process going on throughout the Shadowlands beta. If this video was useful to you, then any likes, comments, or new subscribers are all exceptionally kind things of you to consider doing. If you ended up liking my unusual orations or Shiba Shenanigans and you're new around to my little corner of the YouTube algorithm, then I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every week down a variety of content, covering things such as Shadowlands updates on internal systems such as this video, or other things like add-ons, weak auras, guides, and a lot of other rogue-centric things. As always, my gratitude to all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons for helping make the Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.